and I've always thought that was a nice little sweet, catchy phrase, but we've also heard the term carrots and sticks when it comes to managing people. And I wanted you to kind of expand a little bit about that because you touch on this in your program as well.
Yeah, it's not that carrots and sticks don't work as a management sort of tactic. As I mentioned, the more complicated the work, the less effective carrots and sticks are. Dan Pink says you should pay people enough to take pay off the table. So you don't want them thinking about that. You want them being creative, unless you're selling cars or making widgets or something like that. The other thing is this idea of reciprocity, that if you want people to make a purchase, buy into your ideas, doing something for them really works. So they've done a bunch of studies that show that waiters that give you a mint after your meal get higher tips. Mm-hmm. They'll get even higher tips if they comp your dessert, maybe even more so, even makes up for that loss, right? So there's that idea. So if you want to get, you have to give. And it does help when leaders will model things a bit, like, do some of the frontline manager jobs, or, go around and try some of these things that can create a lot of trust with their employees. But there is like using more carrots actually in different ways than we're traditionally taught, by giving people things. In many cultures, business starts with a gift. So in Asian countries, and you would certainly bring a gift. And when I travel to Dubai, you often got to make sure you bring the best dates from the best date palms, and you don't talk business for four meetings. So you got to build that relationship.
It's interesting. I was thinking of the waiter scenario, and then now I think a lot of us are used to this when you take an Uber or a rideshare, car somewhere. I think the old stat was, it was 15 to 20% higher if they signed, put a smiley face on, the receipt when they gave it to you to pay the bill, because you're going to give a better tip, because there's this connection, there's this joy that comes. It was like, oh, interesting. Once I learned that little stat, it was amazing. You start seeing smiling faces everywhere. It was like it was in some magazine. But to the other part, and I know this isn't really on leadership, but just a point that you were making, we do live in a very tip incentive society right now. And one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy is, before I even use the service, they're asking me if I want to add a tip to the bill. And ride sharing is an example. The place that I order my pizza from, they'll say, hey, do you want to add a tip to this? And I'm like, I haven't even received the product yet. Why would I want to do this? I'm just, just for me, is there any kind of business principle as to why this has happened, or is this just a byproduct of COVID that's hit us now?
I'm not sure exactly, but I can venture a couple guesses. The first one is, if they're asking for a tip right at point of purchase, you're more likely just to do it just because of force of habit, right? Rather than, and you're standing in front of someone. So there's a social shaming aspect that is coming in there. So instead of being able to get your pizza in your house and, decide later if you want to give a tip, you might not give as good of a tip as I have to stand in front of Michael and say what kind of tip I'm going to give.
Right.
Similarly, at like CVS or like Rite Aid, and they ask you when you're buying something, do you want to just donate $1 to X and Y charity? They know that you're already in the mode of making a purchase, and that maybe $1, this small ask that we talked about, won't be that much, and that you will do it maybe. And so that's why they're asking at that moment.
Yeah. My favorite is, you got another one that just gave me a Spurs car wash place. They love hitting me up for a tip before the car actually gets washed. And I'm like, but the last time the guy didn't even get the streaks off the back window.
Right.